Oh, what's going on, everybody? Here, welcome back to some Once Human. Today, we're going to be talking about the brand new M4 Frost Vortex build. I have been having a blast with it. I've had a lot of people asking me my build for it, and I'm going to give you my build currently. Now, this is a phase 1 first build kind of thing. It is not, it's not a min-max thing. I don't typically run the min-max builds. I run builds that I can have fun with, that I can play with, that I enjoy, that aren't complicated. They're easy, they're light, they're fun, and they're just a good time. So that is going to be this build. Let's go ahead and let's talk about, let's start off by talking about the new rifle and what it is. So we actually have a whole new category of rifles. We have the rifle, the M416, which is, in my opinion, my new favorite category of rifle, because we have three options here. We've got the Anubis, which is our Frost Vortex, which is what we're going to be going over today. We've got the Scorched Earth, which I believe is just it's a burn one, so you have a burn option. And then we also have the Autumn Equinox, which is a Fortress Warfare. We're going to be focusing on the Anabasis BP, the Frost Vortex. Now, what does it do? Applies 10% chance to trigger Frost Vortex on hit. Hitting a target with Frost Vortex generates an ice crystal. That has a 1.5 second cooldown. Ice crystals automatically shatter after 15 seconds, dealing frost elemental status damage equal to 100% psi intensity to nearby targets. Frost Vortex damage bonus applies. Ice crystals can also be shattered by shooting them, which increase the damage they deal to 300% psi intensity, deal 60% damage instead to players. So this already, first of all, this is our first look at maybe some PvP versus PvE combat. It specifically says deal 60% damage instead to players. I really like that. I really like that. Increase frost elemental damage by 60%, increases it by an additional 20% for every ice crystal shattered for 10 seconds, stacking up to 15 times. All right, so layman's terms, let's break this down. Basically, every time you shoot somebody, you have a 10% chance to create a Frost Vortex. We know what a Frost Vortex is, we've seen it. However, when you create a Frost Vortex now, you also create this crystal in the middle. Now, that has a 1.5 second cooldown, so you can't create crystal, you know what I mean? So you have to crystal, second and a half, crystal, second and a half, max, you know? Now, while these crystals are running, they are going to be doing elemental status damage, which is the Frost Vortex. So while they're chilling, while the enemy's chilling in the Frost Vortex, they're going to be taking damage of 100% psi intensity while they're chilling in there. They're going to be taking damage over time. However, it stacks. So if you have 1, 2, or 3 of these things going, they're taking all of this damage. So this is really good for pools of people, for pools of enemies. Or it does ramp up against single target enemies. I've seen a lot of, in my personal gameplay, where we hit bosses. If the bosses aren't moving around and you get those vortexes going right around them, it starts really stacking up the damage. Now, the flip side of this is if you shoot it, it explodes and deals 300% psi intensity, and you can do that as well, but you kind of lose, you get that 300% psi intensity immediately. You get that burst of damage, but you don't get that damage over time. I think the bursty damage is really nice, and it actually it goes with a key piece of armor that I'm going to talk about here shortly. But you also get, if you shatter those crystals, you also get that increases frost elemental damage by 60%, and then you also get the increases it by an additional 20% for every ice crystal shattered for 10 seconds, stacking up to 15 times. So that can, so basically when you shoot those, you shatter it, you get an extra 20%. You shoot it, you shatter it, 20%, so on and so forth. So you kind of want to be shooting those if you want to get that bonus upgrade. But again, I'm not going to get into the weeds about it. We're not going to get, super min-maxy here. But what I like about it, and the piece of gear that I am currently running, I will talk about the other piece of gear shortly, because I just want to touch on it. The piece of gear that I'm running is these new snow camo gloves. So these new snow camo gloves add a very fun piece for me. When an ice crystal shatters, so when it breaks, you get that 300% initial psi intensity damage. 4 additional ice missiles will launch at nearby enemies, dealing status damage equal to 40% psi intensity to targets, 60% damage to players, Frost Vortex damage bonus applies. So again, we have the PvP subtext in there. I like that. I think that's the perfect way to do this because it doesn't ruin it for the PvE players. But essentially, so now you burst that crystal, it blows up, and now 4 other ice missiles come out, and they will go towards nearby targets. So say you're in an area that, hey, your frost vortex isn't attacking everybody. When those frost crystals blow up, they will go out and seek other enemies. So they help the clearing, the ad clearing with this, I think is like, it's amazing. It's been great. Now, the other piece of armor that I know people are going to ask and talk about is actually a piece of armor that I don't have yet. I haven't made it. I haven't tried it. It is the is it the Doyle's cloak? No, it's the stealth walker. Well, okay, the Doyle's cloak also can be applied here, but the stealth walker wrap. So this actually causes your frost vortex. It says frost vortex collapsed in the center and keeps pulling 120% enemies within frost vortex. The translation's not super great there, or I'm reading it wrong, but basically it pulls enemies into the frost vortex to keep them in there. Now, that is cool, but I will tell you personally, I haven't played with it, so I don't know for sure, but personally, when a frost vortex pops up, there's usually 1 or 2 enemies within the area that can be affected by that frost vortex, so pulling them in and keeping them in with that area, not super handy. Also, if you're shooting those crystals right away anyways, you get that initial bonus, and you get the missiles that then go find other people that aren't in that area. You know what I mean? So I think this is cool, and I think this is neat, and I think that pull is cool, but I think you have a little bit more utilitarian out of the gloves, because you get the extra damage that is those missiles going out and seeking out. Now, those missiles a lot of times will completely kill an enemy, take them out completely. So that's, I really like it. It's really good for ad clearing, but also those missiles will go right back at a boss if needed. So, but yeah. So let's go ahead. I'm going to talk about my gear and all the gear that I'm running. Those are basically the 2 key pieces here. So if we go to my gear, we are running, like I said, we're running the Silent Anubis. This thing is fantastic right now. I have it at tier 4. Also, a caveat. I want to stress this. This is not an end game build. I have not got to the end game. I'm in week 1 of the new winter server, so I don't know how this is going to fare on the end game. I already can tell you that the Chaos Weavers, this does not work great against Chaos Weavers, because Chaos Weavers do not take, I believe they don't take status damage. They don't take, so like burn, shock, all that stuff doesn't work against those. They don't take elemental damage. They don't take, they basically, like, they don't have crit spots either. So you have, like, basically the only things you have against the Chaos Weavers is going to be like Fortress Warfare, Fast Gunner, those kind of things. The builds that are going to focus on raw weapon damage and not so much on the statuses or the elemental and things like that. So that's kind of where, yeah, it kind of struggles a little bit. But right now, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen a whole lot of other things right now, so we'll see that. But yeah, anyways, so I'm running the Silent Anubis. I'm running it with the Bullseye, obviously. The calibration that I'm running on this guy is actually really nice. It is max number of Frost Vortexes +1, Frost Vortex damage +10%. So Frost Vortex +1, right? So every time you get 1, you get 2. Every time you get 1 Frost Crystal, you get 2. You see where that damage starts stacking up a little bit faster now? Obviously, we want, elemental damage. The core damage for this weapon is going to be your elemental damage and status damage. The raw weapon damage itself is going to be lacking. So like your shots are going to seem weak, but once you start popping off those frost vortexes, once you start shooting those crystals, your damage is going to start increasing significantly. Now, nothing in here is crit based. Nothing in here is crit damage, crit rate, crit damage. You don't need any of that. All you want elemental and you want status. Elemental and status damage. I prefer elemental damage first. Status damage, from my explanation, status damage is your damage over time damage. So if they're sitting in a frost vortex and they take 100 every second, and you do status damage 2.4%, they're going to take 102.4 damage per second instead. Whereas elemental damage, it's that bursty frost damage. Like, so when the thing blows up, when you do the initial frost damage, it's that really bursty stuff. That I feel like does a lot better than your status damage. So I always try to go with elemental damage over status, but if you can get either one of those, it's great. And if you can get Frost Vortex specifically, even better. So that's the mod I'm running here. Accessory wise, just run whatever accessories you want. Doesn't matter. I'm running things basically to keep my stability and accuracy almost the same. There is a new grip that you can use. I know there's this grip right here. And this grip increases your stability more than your accuracy, but I want to keep my accuracy, my my stuff together. So I'm using this elite vertical grip. This is sold by the guy with the chest. I can't remember his name. Ever remember his name? So there's that. So there's the rifle, the bullseye or the bingo. We're running the adds vulnerability. If I could get something with elemental damage on this, it'd be cool. But at the same time, we're not ever having this out for very long. So there's that. The wildfire might be good here if you're dealing with multiple enemies, because then you could get that vulnerability to spread to other enemies. So that could actually be really good. So we might try that out as well. But something with the bullseye, just like, because when you take it out, you shoot the first time, it's guaranteed to add the bullseye effect. So it's just really nice to have. Melee, we're running a torch because it's the winter one that gives you a heat source. Okay, so this is the first part of the the armor that is a little interesting. It's a little, I don't want to say I don't want to say it's just interesting. So I'm gonna start with I'm running shelter. We're running a 4-piece shelter, so that way we can have the obviously we want status damage reduction. That's the damage we take. So element damage plus 8%. Each weapon hit grants 1 stack of deviant energy. Every stack of deviant energy grants 1% elemental damage. So blaze, frost, shock, blast. Effect can stack 20 times. So essentially, every time you hit something, you get up to 20% more elemental damage. When you reload, it cuts that in half, so it goes back down to 10. But when you do a 4-piece, it increases it by 10 and grants 2 additional stacks when hitting a weak spot. So basically, you have a 4-piece, you're shooting an enemy, you get up to 30% damage increase. When you reload, it goes back down to 15, but within 15 shots, it's back up to 30%. Great all around, just a good all around set to have. It's great for blaze, it's great for shock, it's great for all of them. It's really good. It's a good all-around set. It's used for a lot of things. So I'm using a 4-piece for that. And like I said, we talked about the gloves. We're using the gloves, and we're gonna talk about the Blackstone stuff. So this is the new armor set. I'm running a single piece of it, and the reason I'm running a single piece is because we get a cold resist +5. And there's actually something else about this thing where I don't know if we can actually see it on here or not. If we go in here and we look, okay, so when you are crafting this, let me actually go to a crafting bench. Let me talk to you about this set. There's something very specific and very special about this set that is unlike any other set. So if we go to armor and we go to the Blackstone set, like I said, is very different. And we go in here. There is actually 2 selectable items in here. Now, if you go to like a normal set, like say we're gonna build a shelter, there's 1 selectable item right now, and it's the hide. And the hide is gonna determine whatever. So like for the chest piece is gonna determine cold resist, maximum low, things like that. So obviously we want cold resist right now. Eventually we're gonna have to have hot resist. We're gonna eventually have to have 2 sets of armor completely. But there's only 1 adjustable here. Now where where this Blackstone kind of shines, and it took me by surprise a little bit, is this other replaceable item. So we have our standard, cowhide, whatever, and you can see cowhide, it does whatever damage, but we can actually select hot rock ore or cold crystal ore here. Now this is where things get a little spicy. If we add cold crystal ore, replaces existing gear effects. So I don't know what effects it's replacing here. But grants a huge elemental damage bonus under low temperature conditions. So if you are fighting in a low temperature condition, it grants you a huge elemental damage bonus. That sounds exciting. And it's exactly the opposite with the hot rock. So grants a huge elemental damage bonus under high temperature conditions. So right now in the phase of the winter that we're in, it's fairly okay. The weather's not super crazy right now. But towards the end of the season, the cold areas are going to be extremely cold. The hot areas are going to be extremely hot. So this could make this whole set even better. Now let's talk about the benefit of the set, and it's kind of interesting, and it's a little odd. So you get the heat resist. Well, this one's heat resist +5. And then upon dealing elemental damage, gain 1 stack of warm sensation. Each stack of warm sensation gives you elemental damage +2% for 2 seconds, triggers 1 time every half a second, up to a maximum of 5 stacks. Now, I believe how this is going to stack is when you get a Frost Vortex off. I think when you get a Frost Vortex off and you start doing some elemental damage in there, you can gain this every half a second up to 5. So as long as they're in the Frost Vortex, you're going to be getting increased elemental damage. Now, when the temperature is above 30 C, you gain a passion status that is elemental damage plus 10%. For every additional degree above that, gain elemental damage plus 0.5%. What? So I'm sorry. I just realized that these change when you change these rocks. Okay. So this is interesting. This is interesting. When you have the cold and you're running cold, and when you get that damage under cold temperature, these actually change. I'm actually very surprised here. I did not realize that these changed. So I was reading, I was like, this is not the same as it was just a second ago. So upon dealing elemental damage, you get 1 stack of warm sensation, elemental damage plus 2% every time. Yeah, so we know that one's about the same. When the temperature is below 10, you gain cold status, elemental damage plus 10%. For every additional degree below that, gain elemental damage 0.5% up to 20%. So if you're in a really cold area, you get even more damage here. And then at 5 stacks of warm sensation, which we don't have. Oh yeah, we do have warm sensation here. So at 5 stacks of warm sensation, the environmental temperature drops by 20 C. The damage bonus provided by cold status is doubled and it's capped to 40%. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, because of this and because of this change, this actually sounds quite good. So I want to talk about it in its normal form, Stardust. So if you just use Stardust and you don't use any of the ores, this is the reason I didn't build this set to start with, is because of this right here. So upon dealing elemental damage, we got that one's the same, right? You still get the warm sensation, you still get that. But when the temperature is between 10 and 30, you gain elemental damage plus 18%. And I was like, it's almost never between 10 and 30. You know, it's always cold or it's really hot here. So I was like, I don't feel like this is going to work out very well. At 5 stacks of warm sensation, you're considered to be warm status, and when the environment is between 10 and 30, you gain elemental damage plus 7%. I was like, okay, that's not really that great because the shelter can basically do that all the time. However, having the cold changes everything, because this makes you cold, which makes this trigger, which makes all of this work. So that's gonna be interesting. We're gonna test that out. But anyways, so that's the piece that I'm using right now. Again, people want to know my current build. That's my current build. We're gonna talk about, let me talk about the mods real fast that I currently have. Nothing super crazy. So on our headpiece, I'm running the range minus 25%. I'm running the deviation expert talents, range minus 25%, fire rate 10%, status damage 20%, elemental damage obviously. Now the thing with the fire rate is fantastic because this gun is already a faster shooting gun, but every time you get the 20 hits, you get the frost crystal. So you kind of want to be firing as fast as you can, but you don't want to like lose your accuracy. You don't want to lose everything. But the range minus 25%, not even an issue with this build whatsoever. That's huge. Fire rate is huge. I'm actually thinking about when we can. I'm actually thinking about doing a recalibration to get a faster fire rate to get those 20 shots off faster. So once I do, I'll probably make a video then. For the mask, the longer the duration of the frost vortex, the higher its final damage, up to 60%. This one's not ideal. I think there's a better one here, but basically the longer the frost vortex is out, the more damage it does. So if you leave it out and you don't shatter it yourself, it does more damage. However, if you shatter it yourself, you get that bonus that we mentioned earlier. The top, obviously this is like the #1 top I think everybody uses. When HP is above 60%, a kill recovers 15% of lost HP. This keeps you alive. Basically, you keep getting kills, you keep getting healed. It's fantastic. It's great. The pants, when the magazine is empty, status damage plus 10% for 12 seconds. Effect can stack up to 3 times. Basically, with the faster fire rate, we're dropping that mag a lot faster. We're reloading faster. So we're reloading, obviously, 3 times within 12 seconds. That gives us a 30% status damage increase. Now, this one I play with because this one has a little bit of a ramp effect on it. Deal 1 instances of elemental damage, weak spot damage, 0.8%. The effect can stack up to 6 times. These are like a ramp in kind of effect, but everything in this build is ramping, so I think this is okay to have. I think it ramps in very nicely with it as well. Again, more playing on that. I could be completely wrong. Obviously, status enhancement talents, status damage plus 20%, and then elemental damage. Obviously, that's what we want there. And then the boots, taking no damage within 4 seconds, grants plus 20% melee weapon and status damage for 30 seconds. The effect resets when the duration ends. So just more status damage. This is the build that I'm currently running. Like I said, it's not min-max, it's not perfect, it's not amazing. But what I will tell you is it's fun, it's easy. All you do is have to shoot the target. That's it. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to swap. You don't have to get your melee out, do a half melee weapon cancel, get your secondary out, pop one shot off of that, activate this ability, throw a dagger, and then go into your main weapon, shoot 3 clips, and then restart. No, you don't have to do anything. You shoot, you have fun, you have a good time. That's all you have to do. And hopefully during this video, I'll just have I've had clips playing for you, so that way you can kind of see like what's going on. But it's a fun build, it's a good build, and I might actually just go ahead and leave you with some gameplay as well. It's a good build, it's fun. I've had a blast with it. Leave comments down below, let me know what you guys think. Again, I know there's things that can be better, and please, by all means, tell me what you think could be better about it. I don't think this is going to be a ultimate high damage build. I don't think this is going to be your do 1.5 million damage to this boss or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be that kind of build. I think it's going to be a good all-around build that people have fun with, people enjoy playing with, and it's easy enough for people to have fun with. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, I do also think that now that I've read those the armor blueprints a little bit more, I think that the the Blackstone set is going to be a little bit more better, or a little bit more better. Wow, look at my English. I think it's going to be a little bit better now. Because of the hot and the cold rocks, because that gives you the option to have a decent set for the hot area, have a decent set for the cold area, and when you're not using it, which is what I was worried about, is what if you're not playing this scenario and you don't have hot or cold? You can use the Stardust, because everything's between 10 and 30 degrees on the regular maps, so you don't have to worry about it. So you get that damage bonus anyways. Now, I don't think it's going to be as viable on regular maps, but it's still I mean, it's still there, it's still a thing, so maybe you can, maybe not, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, leave comments, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everybody.